Alright guys, Lqgend. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. ZooMaa exposes the state of play right now in challenges, not exactly calling out, but certainly revealing what the other teams are paying in terms of their salaries after some serious criticism lately from Zinni that ZooMaa's not paying his players. ZooMaa says, look, this is what the salaries look like for the majority of these challenger teams, apart from OpTic with the Huntsmen, and of course Falcons with their academy rosters. Scrap with a few thoughts for Octane as well, we'll certainly get into. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you are new as always. Thought this is pretty funny to start the video. We're going to start here with a couple of things on BO7. So we know that they launched with a lot of throwback maps in this game. There's more to come. As we know, Raid, Standoff, Express, Meltdown, of course, among others. Now, there's more coming back as well. And Ghost of Hope says we might finally be getting the Carrier remaster. Carrier, look, it's not going to be played in competitive, but for pubs, Carrier in Black Ops 2 was great fun. Like, it was the one on the, well, on the aircraft carrier, right? Massive aircraft carrier. It was a super open map design. It was an absolute field day if you got a Lodestar or something on that map. It was a great pubs map. And look, it'd be cool to see it back. The question is, are we going to see other things instead? Ghost of Hope says they're obsessed with adding a napalm strike, and I don't get it. I hope they add the lightning strike back because it's an iconic streak. Not sure. Well, we'll see. I mean, napalm strike is not going to be used in competitive. The lightning strike was and could potentially still be. The other thing that he talked about, Ghost of Hope, was about some of these other maps. Apparently, there was some backlash about some of the maps they were looking to bring in. And as a result, some of them have been cancelled now. So we won't necessarily get all the maps that, because Stakeout was looked at and there were some other things. So maybe they will cancel a few things. There was also a little bit of talk from Ghost, I hope, about destruction. This kind of, I've always forgot this was a thing, but you guys remember in Vanguard, especially maps like this tiny one, you could blow up the walls. It was a big thing on even maps like Tuscan. Tuscan was a great map, in my opinion, in the history of the CDL. But there were a few walls that you would blow up, right? There were like those wooden panels you would shoot out, and then it would give you an angle and give you a line of sight. I always forgot it was a thing, and I'm glad it's not a thing anymore. But I did see a bit of, you know how it goes, it's the COD cycle, isn't it? A little bit of nostalgia. People saying, oh, I kind of miss this this destructible mechanics, because you remember how much they gassed up these destructible mechanics. And did anyone really like them? Certainly from a competitive perspective, I think if anything, they just made things a little bit more awkward. So, yeah, tweet your thoughts on that in the comments. I just do wonder, because Black Ops 6, Black Ops 7... given they've not really performed, will Infinity Ward, obviously this was a Sledgehammer game, but will Infinity Ward think, because what's the hype piece, right? Like, that's how it tends to be. They always need to come up with something that makes people like, oh my god, wow, COD's doing this year, whoa. And I don't know if it's going to be Destructibles, but I guess we'll see. They'll probably come back at some point. The other thing that Brian Stats puts out is on which members of the flank have won championships in various seasons. And it turns out every single season, there has been a championship won all the way from Black Ops 1 into 2023 from the flank cast. Unfortunately, no longer. Although, of course, there have been guest appearances, so maybe you could consider that and say that there's at least been some sort of championship winner every year. But, yeah, Aches, Parasite in the early days, ZooMaa then won in Ghost, ZooMaa Attach won in Advanced Warfare, World War II, Modern Warfare 19, and then Octane actually clutches up in many of these years to get them over the line. There was a little bit of talk as well. Where's Benjay, right? Where's Ben? What's going on there, right? But Brian says, oh yeah, Benjay, he's can I get a cheeseburger? So that was pretty good. So, yeah, Ben stays getting cooked. There have been a few finals, actually, between these players, very much back in the day, all involving Parasite. So, yeah, just thought it was kind of a nice little throwback to see. However, fast forward to the present day ZooMaa, there's quite a bit to talk about, because we know that Zinni the other day was saying, oh, Tommy, like, you're not paying the Stallions, guys, not paying them like big salaries to play for the Stallions. And look, could ZooMaa drop like Huntsman, Falcons salaries on the players if he really wanted to? Possibly, I don't know. But look, it's obviously a big talking point. At the end of the day, ZooMaa's done an awful lot for the scene anyway. People want to play for Stallions because they get the exposure, and it's not like the challengers' salaries are high anyway, with the exception of a couple of different teams. This, by the way, this revelation from ZooMaa makes it absolutely incomprehensible to me that we don't see more players stream. Like, I get it if you're in the Pro League and you're making 5-6K a month, you're on like a solid salary, and you're like, all right, I'm just going to get on and play COD, and I still don't get it. Like, it's certainly not what I would do, because your COD career isn't going to last forever. Maybe you get 2 years in the Pro League. Yeah, you're a pretty fortunate player if you've been in the league for more than, maybe not fortunate is the right word, because you earn it with good play, but the average length of a stint in the COD League has got to be like 2 seasons, 3 seasons max on average. Of course, you get the top players who are around for a decade. You get some who are around for 2 matches or, a couple of months at the bare minimum. So there's a lot of churn, and it does frustrate the even players on some of the weaker teams. It's like, they're on weaker teams. You might be getting paid decent money, but like, are they going to keep you next year? Not necessarily. But in challenges, that is even more exacerbated because, yeah, the prize pools nowadays are stronger, as we know. The CDL is putting a bit more money into it, which is good. If you win all the challenges things, you can make a solid living from that. Obviously, the goal is to make it into the Pro League for sure. And there are some teams that are nicing their players. Presumably OpTic are one with the Huntsman, right? I think they're always going to do their players a solid with everything that's happening. But also Falcons. I mean, let's be honest, right? If you're either of the Falcons teams, you're doing perfectly fine. They've got facilities, they've got the setups, they've got everything you'd want, right? So if you want to play for anyone in challenges, it's probably the Falcons teams, you could argue. They're in a pretty sizable position, I would imagine. But ZooMaa says, like, this is the state of play in challenges right now, and this is what most of the teams are playing. And if Stallions wanted FaZe to make it into a proper business and start paying the players a little bit of money to get them onto contracts, because that'd be the idea, right? If you are going to pay them a little bit of change, then, obviously $200 a month is a substantial amount. You add that over 4 players, it's not an easy investment for people to just chuck around and throw in. But equally, if you give $200 a month to the 4 players and a coach, then in exchange, you're going to want some sort of contractual relationship whereby if they're going to go to the Pro League, you're going to get some sort of money in return. ZooMaa's not so keen on that, so he wants to keep it more free-flowing for fun. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting revelation about the scene.
If I really cared about money, I'd be putting 360 deals in front of superstar players. Right? Like the best players in challengers, I'd just be going to the top 4 teams, the best player in challengers, and giving them 360 deals and fucking paying them $150 a month. You know what I mean? Like, hey, bro, I'd be giving them $150, $200 a month, and it's signing them to 360 deals and selling them for as much as I possibly could. If we cared about the money, do we want to make it into a business and make money from it? I mean, yeah, sure, that'd be great, guys. Who the fuck would want? Who the hell wouldn't want to make money? And this guy said $200 only. I mean, listen, bro, that's literally the average salary in challenge. That's the salary. That's the magical salary that everybody's like, oh, you guys don't get salary. Guys, the magical salary that these challenger teams give are probably like $250 a month. Like that's their salary. That's what they're giving them. Like it's nothing crazy. The only teams that are probably paying way more than that are OpTic and Falcons for obvious reasons. Right.
I remember receiving the schedule and taking a look at it when 2019 when we were on the Huntsman before COVID actually stopped everything from happening. Bro, our travel schedule was fucking unbelievable. I could have done it at the time, but nowadays I don't know if I could have done that. I hate flying now, but bro, there was like a 3-week period. I mean, the whole idea of home series in general was just a miss. That was just a miss, bro. Having not all the teams there and playing against each other, you can't even count those chips, man. Like. That is already kind of AIDS. And then, like, they're expecting players to fly to Paris this weekend, come back home on Monday. Fucking, I don't know what you do for the next 2 days. Scrim for the next 2 days, fly out again on Wednesday, go to London, come back, go to Atlanta, come back, go to fucking LA. Like, dude, like, what is this? What is this? And I kind of understand, like...
Bro, Sam, you understand. Your neck is probably the same length, if not longer than mine. And your head is top heavy. Your head is top heavy, so the strain on your neck must be like, my head's pretty small. Your head, bro, that shit is, bro, that's literally a bobblehead, bro. You're literally a bobblehead walking around.
What do we think about Scrap's take on Big Octane, Big Sam Octane LaRue, on the neck debate? People have always said Octane's got a big head. The neck thing is interesting. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's almost off-season level content, but I thought it was kind of funny because they're part of the same organization. We also know that Octane has given his thoughts to Scrap in recent weeks. Octane made it quite clear that he'd spoken to the team about signing a Luca, and in the end, of course, that didn't happen, right? Because they decided not to do so. But anyway, yeah, a couple of pictures here going around, and Scrap always finds an entertaining thing to say. Again, Scrap, it doesn't matter. Scrap is still the king giraffe. He can spin it any which way he wants. I think in the league, Ghosty's the only viable candidate instead. The other clip there that I thought was worthy of some discussion before we finish the video was on Formal about the COD League and the state of the CDL and what they were planning to do and what we might need to change in the future, right? Because, look, this is one of the reasons I think the CDL was set back, or just competitive COD in general was set back so many years by the state of the Pro League. We've made some progress, but I think especially challenges this season has shown us that there's a lot more still that the CDL needs to do if the actual Pro League itself is going to remain the premier product. Of course, it's still going to be the premier product. It's got the big LAN tournaments, it's got the big teams, it's got OpTic and all that. But still, from an entertainment value perspective, there is no doubt that we have some new fans this season watching challenges because of Bush or because of, you know, various other organizations and teams that are getting involved, and just the excitement in general of the storylines and the grassroots nature of challenges. They're probably looking at the Pro League thinking, damn, this isn't hitting the same. Whereas back in the day it did, because it was all part of the same thing. And of course, that really started when the Pro League came around and they changed tack. But Formal's talking about the World Tour, what was announced as the CDL World Tour, and it was remarkable when they first announced this. I've actually got the graphic here of what they first announced. So this was the original plan for the World Tour in 2020. They'd not yet announced what was meant to be a mid-season weekend, and then the championship weekend, of course, at the end of the season. But this was meant to be the season, and you can see that on many occasions here, these are simply 2-day tournaments, but they're not even tournaments. This was the crazy thing about this initially. This was plans to just be league matches for a weekend. So I would go down to London and I would watch the teams play, and nobody would win at the end of the weekend. They would just be playing league matches in front of a crowd. Then they would fly off and do it elsewhere, and the only actual tournaments were the mid-season tournament and then champs. That was it. It was league. You're bringing all the teams together, although only 8 of the 12 teams together around the world, just to do this. Then they pivoted away from this. Before the season started, they were like, okay, we are going to make these tournaments and do fewer of them. Then, of course, when the pandemic happens, they all had to go online, but they were still only 8 teams were there, which, again, as Formal says, kind of takes away from things. But look at what they had the players doing, and I appreciate, as Formal says, that they weren't there every weekend, but they were going to be there a lot of these weekends. And you would go, I mean, even if you just look in, let's say, February to March, they're in Atlanta, 22nd, 23rd. They fly back on the Monday. Then, as he says, what, you get 2 days of scrims, maybe, 1-2 days of scrims, and then you're flying out to Paris for literally 2 days of matches. Then you're flying back from Paris to Los Angeles. That's quite the journey to play one game next weekend. The weekend after that, you're in New York, then Toronto, then Dallas, then Chicago. I mean, look, on some level, this seems kind of lit, right? You're playing all the time. Every weekend's different city. And I can understand why people putting this together thought, wow, this is fire. But like, when you actually saw the idea in reality, which never really quite came true because of various factors, that there's just no way this is a good idea, right? So I just find it interesting how much times have changed, that this was the idea they came up with in the first year, which is just so far removed from what makes Call of Duty tick. And they, eventually figured that out. But it's taken us quite a long time to get to a point where the scene feels kind of recognizable to how it did in 2019. And even then, I think we've still got a bit of work to be done. I think it's also worth just looking at all these logos and the fact that everything has changed here now. Huntsmen are gone, although they're back now as the Challengers team, but they're gone. Atlanta FaZe are gone. Dallas Empire are gone. That became OpTic Texas, obviously. OpTic Chicago, they're gone. I mean, it was OGLA here, actually, right? It wasn't even OpTic Chicago. OpTic Chicago came for the Huntsmen. That was OGLA, OpTic in Los Angeles, who became 100 Thieves, became Los Angeles Thieves. New York Subliners are gone. The only team that's kind of still here is Rocker, really. I mean, even they've changed. They've got the red eye now. They're G2 Minnesota. At least they've got the same logo. Ravens is now red, or now blue. It used to be red. And Florida Mutineers is gone. LA Gorillas finally is gone. Oh my god. Paris is now Falcons. Surge, I guess they've got the same logo, to be fair to them. I think they did change the colour slightly, but they're now in Vancouver. Toronto are now Koi. So, yeah, lots of changes. But I suppose you look back on the last few seasons and you say, at least we learned a few things about what to change. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.